Alright, we're closing in. This is the second to the last album released in Elvis's lifetime. It was 1976. Elvis had been on the road for quite some time. He was still booked in Vegas, and then he would go out and tour the country. They found it increasingly harder to get him into the recording studio to lay down some tracks. And so they offered to build a studio in his house to allow him to record at his leisure. And he took him up on the offer, and thus began the legend of the Jungle Room, which was recently documented in the new release, Way Down in the Jungle Room, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the first album that led to is this album, from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, recorded live. Like I was talking about on that last one about, you know, how they were wanting to trick people. Well, this is why this is the last straw. They say recorded live. It was recorded live in his den, and then overdubbed later on with strings and horns and all that goodness. On the backside, there's like a little letter or a telegram from Elvis that says, "Dear friends, thank you for your loyalty. I sincerely hope you like my new RCA album. My best wishes, Elvis Presley." And then it goes on to list the songs. Which, of all the songs in his career, the Stax stuff, the stuff on Today, the movie soundtracks have at best been forgotten, at worst have been completely derided in certain situations. But none of them as controversial as the material on this album. Because not because of what it would have been like when it came out, but because of what happened afterwards. This is it's kind of a sad album. Some of these songs, Never Again, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, The Last Farewell, Danny Boy, Bitter They Are, Harder They Fall, Solitaire, the Neil Sedaka song, I'll Never Fall in Love Again, Love Coming Down. The latter part of Elvis's career was basically one big sad song after another. For the Heart is the one kind of real rocker on this, and it's really good. It's really I would argue, is the standout rock and roll song from this album, and from those sessions. There are a couple that show up on the next album, but that are more upbeat. But For the Heart is the one that sticks out in particular. Not to say I don't like Way Down. We'll get to Way Down. Way Down's a good song, but I like For the Heart. Very controversial release. The arrangements, which were by Bergen White, have long been called bombastic, maudlin, syrupy, and thank God for the Sony Legacy release, Way Down in the Jungle Room, which just came out, and also the Jungle Room Sessions, the Follow That Dream release from the early 2000s, because after Elvis died, this album took on a sort of new life as they wheeled him out, and he was so out of it that he was, he was sitting in his pajamas recording. Is some of the things I've heard about this album, and I can see how the way that this album is presented in this format, in this fashion, with these arrangements, you might get that sense if you really believed that. It's that confirmation bias thing. Thank goodness that there are session outtakes, and you can actually hear now what Elvis sounded like during the recording of this album. He had not lost it. He was there mentally, physically. He was joking around with the band. He was having fun. He was telling them what he wanted to hear. He had very distinctive ideas of what he wanted these songs to sound like because they resonated with him so much. There's a song on here, the first song, Hurt. The most significant song on here, I personally think, of his entire latter career. Because it represents an artist that Elvis deeply admired and respected. That Elvis went back to the well of covering this guy's songs over and over and over. And I don't think Elvis ever actually bettered Roy Hamilton. And I think that that was always a challenge for Elvis. And from I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Cry Over You in the 50s to You'll Never Walk Alone in the 60s to Hurt in the 70s. I don't think he ever bettered Roy Hamilton. There were a lot of artists that Elvis covered, and he made the songs his own. And I think Roy Hamilton owns him on every single one of the songs that he did of Roy's. And that's why this album has become kind of a new favorite of mine, because that drive can be heard through all of the overdubs, the heavy echo, reverb. The voice is still there. The kid from Memphis who loved blues music and loved soul music, who loved country music, is still here in this album. And his tastes have changed. His life experiences have led him down a path that was not necessarily a happy one. There were many happy things. I honestly believe that he was a happy man at the end of his life. There were sad things about his life, but I don't believe in the whole, he was so, drugged out that they couldn't even keep him awake and stuff like that. I think there is some element of truth to that. I'm sure that some of the people who were there would testify that was the case. But everyone has bad days. I've seen some people who have lived rougher lives, who still have time to smile and still find things to live for. And I think that if Elvis had lived, the music that we would have gotten from him would have continued in this vein of kind of easy listening country music. I think he very much would have shifted, like I said before, to almost something like a Johnny Cash sort of recording artist. But what we have here is a phenomenal record that is better experienced as part of the whole. This is not an album that you can really sit down and listen to and enjoy on its own. Track by track, you can kind of pick out songs, but this really needs to be heard in the context of the rest of the Jungle Room sessions. It needs to be heard as companion with the companion outtakes, because this is a dated album. It's very much a product of its time. It's 1976, but despite that, the song choices, the vocal performances, the TCB band, everybody's on top of it, and it's just a shame that the production, the post production, as they would say in film, side of it, the overdubbing dated this material worse than it deserves, and made it arguably even more susceptible to the sort of controversy that it's become known for. So as far as this album is concerned, if you haven't yet, check out Way Down in the Jungle Room, and listen to the material from this album and the next one, and it will definitely change your mind about this music at the end of his life. I think it will. So that's that one.